We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Say Things, episode 38. It's sponsored by absolutely nobody. My name is Sunshine. Joined by Syndra. How's it going?
I'm good, Shannon.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I had a pretty good night's sleep this time, actually. Wow. I went to bed a bit earlier because I hadn't had a full night's sleep in like a week. And I had a thundering headache. Man, I feel so much better, Shannon. And it's all because of you. So thank you.
Wait, why is it because of me?
I don't know. I just want to say something nice for you.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Shannon, before we start,
yes.
Can I do something very unique for this podcast?
Okay.
I'll do an unopening, an unboxing on camera of this.
Okay.
All right. You need to guess what this is before I start. You get one guess.
That's all I get?
Yeah, one guess.
It's an Ethernet cable.
Incorrect.
HDMI cable.
Also incorrect.
It's a live onion.
Yes.
It's your dog.
Exactly.
Oh, is it the Aegis of immortality?
Shannon, I won. Finally. Wait, how's this open? Yes.
Oh, wait. Which TI is that for?
This is TI9.
What color is
I won
that?
TI9.
It looks
Thank
blue.
you, Shannon. I knew you supported me the whole way.
Congratulations, Cinderin.
Thank you so much.
Level
you
1,000.
Have this one as well, right?
No, I've never gotten level 1,000. I just don't make enough money to do that, Cinderin.
It wasn't that bad this year, to get honestly.
Yeah,
I wanted a lot of the stuff on the way, and then I think the rest I just got from leveling up by playing, honestly.
The last battle pass, I will say, it was the highest I've done because the axe was like level 500 and the towers, I just needed all of it. So kudos to Valve. Congratulations on making a lot of money.
Kudos to Valve on shipping them out this year at better time, although
Yes.
It apparently arrived at my post office 8 days ago and I wasn't noticed. And if I hadn't just randomly checked, they might have sent it back in 6 days. So,
pretty sure that's
not
on
Valve. It got sent this time. So
that's not on Valve. What does that have to do with that?
No, it's not. I'm not saying it's Valve's fault.
You guys just need to learn how to do your mail in Denmark. Jesus.
It wasn't Denmark's fault, I'm pretty sure, actually.
It's always Denmark's fault.
Okay.
Their fault as well. Okay, we have a lot of topics. This is going to be the longest episode of all time, most likely. So I will say we had to delay the episode, and because we're doing this on a Saturday, obviously the next episode on Tuesday will not happen. So this will kind of be like the combination of 2 weeks because this is a lot. So to get us started,
it's a Whopper episode, not sponsored by Burger King, but if you guys want, we're here.
I think it's more of a Big Mac, personally. But,
Shannon probably doesn't even want to be endorsed by Burger King because he fucking hates it.
I mean, you know what, Burger King? I will learn to like your. If you bring back the Angus burger, that was legit. I used to eat that all the time in college, and then you got rid of it, and now it's just complete garbage. But anyway, we're going to start off with some somber news, Cinderin. I want to hear your reaction to this. So Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and a bunch of other people died in a helicopter crash. That was, I'm going to say it was weird because let me just give my reaction, okay? And then you can give yours because I don't know what it's like to be a Euro that's not even into basketball. I'm super into basketball, as you guys know. When Kobe was a player, I hated his guts beyond belief. Like number 3 on the list of most hated players while he was active. That's mainly because he was just so good and he just destroyed the Suns constantly. Honestly, that was, and he was on the Lakers.
It has nothing to do with personality. It's just
I mean, early personality. He had some, let's say, issues with the law and whatnot, and I was not a big fan of him either. But over time, he started to grow on me. This is me being perfectly honest. And by the end of his career, like he got 60 points in his last game. I was in awe. I was like, holy shit, that's actually pretty cool. Not gonna lie. And then after his career was over, he started to become more of a family man. He got an Oscar for a short video that he made. He just started doing a lot of cool stuff with like just business related things. He was actually just super hard worker in every single field he was into. I didn't know how, like, if you had asked me how I would react to him dying, I'd say, obviously I'd be shocked, but I don't know if it would affect me that much. I don't know if it's the media in the US, but it's been really weird. I was actually kind of like really sad. Not to the point of tears. Like if you watch like these montages, obviously I get teary-eyed for that stuff all the time. So that's nothing new. But it's felt really weird in the US at least. because every channel's constantly talking about, like, still to this day. It's been like almost a week now, and it's just everything on TV is related to this, and it's just felt, I don't know. I'm trying to think back of anything in my lifetime that has felt. This is equivalent. I know some people might disagree with this, but for me, to put into perspective, this might be similar to like JFK, the JFK assassination, like similar impact. I know it's a president versus a basketball player, but this guy's had like huge impact on the sport that I'm following. So I don't know, it's just been really weird. I didn't expect to have like these emotions and whatnot, but I'm interested to hear what your perspective is.
I mean, I think it's also about the times, right? If you make the comparison to JFK, it's like there's so much more information flow, right? So whenever something big like this happens, it spreads like wildfire across everywhere, and it gets amplified too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is not to downplay either of them. I'm just like, I was just thinking, maybe the reason that comparison makes sense is that if you imagine JFK assassination today, who knows how that would be covered, right? It's just
right. Well, let me also say, I mean, obviously there's a lot of misinformation because I was following it live as it was happening, or as it was being reported.
The JFK assassination.
Yes, I was very old or very young back then.
Dude, if you were following that live, I have some questions.
But for the Kobe thing, I guess. Okay, so if you go back to like any celebrity deaths in my lifetime, I've never been affected like this, I feel. And there have been some of them that have, hit me to a degree. Like, a lot of people won't know this, but like Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, like these SNL guys, that I love those guys a lot. And probably the biggest one, my favorite actor, wasn't even a fan of him as a comedian, but absolutely my favorite actor, Robin Williams. That was pretty bad. I love that guy. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel the same. Maybe it's because this guy was like just retired 4 years ago. Maybe it's because this is the sport that I follow. Maybe because, I mean, Kobe's more famous than all those people, in my opinion. It's like a global icon,
I think it might be because like it's the sport you follow, so a lot of the content that you watch or pay attention to will be talking about this. So you're like you're like exposed to it all the time, and it does make it seem like more of a magnitude, right? So
yeah,
it's really big to you, and that's, I mean, to give you my honest response, like a lot of the times when I'm not into basketball at all, right? Like, if you haven't watched the podcast, if you have watched the podcast, it should be pretty apparent by now that I don't really know much about basketball. But so, like, personally for me, I can obviously appreciate how big of an icon this guy was, but I did not have any like connection with the scene. I haven't really been following basketball. I haven't really been seeing this much because I don't watch TV, right? So the exposure I've had to this has basically been the Reddit front page and reading it and, being like, it's always a really big shame, but like, just for me personally, it's not the same impact on just me as an individual, but I can totally emphasize with how big of a like tragedy this is for millions of people, right? It's a really, really big and sad thing. And the thing about these things always is that, like, so I didn't read the specifics about this with it was a helicopter crash, right?
Yes. So he used to take helicopters all the time because LA traffic is that bad, and when you're super rich, you take helicopters everywhere.
Right.
So he'd been doing that for 20 years or so.
Okay. Because I feel like a lot of the time, maybe it's just confirmation bias, but a lot of the time there's like celebrity deaths of this kind, it has to do with air travel. Like, again, maybe it's confirmation bias, but air travel is also one of the safest means of transportation. Like, at least regular flights, right, are very safe.
Right.
And
well,
the reason you hear about it is that it's when there's a plane crash, there's a lot of people dying, and then obviously it's a big tragedy because of that. But relative to car accidents, like, if you want to look at the odds, now we're getting really pragmatic about it, but flying is pretty safe.
Yes.
So what is it with helicopters? Is that way less safe, or is it bad? Because I feel like there's been multiple helicopter accidents.
So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but from my understanding, planes, when something goes wrong, you can do something about it. Obviously, when you're a passenger, like, this is my biggest fear, is dying on a plane, because you have no control over it. That's why driving a car feels better, even though it's less safe by huge amounts, right?
Well, how much control do you have if you're a passenger in a car?
Well, none.
Compared to...
Well, if you're Yeah, the passenger in the car is different, but if you're driving, you feel like you have control at least.
Right. Okay. If you're the driver yourself, right.
Right. But from a plane perspective, even if an engine goes out, I mean, that happened. That I'm not gonna say that happens all the time. That's not that crazy of a thing to happen. It's just like a lot of times it's not even an emergency because there's so many engines. Somebody's gonna make fun of me because I maybe don't know what I'm talking about, but I remember reading something about this. But when something goes wrong in a helicopter, it's not good, you know. But
right.
From what I was reading, it was more like mist, fog, pollution, something to that degree, and they shouldn't have been flying. Like a lot of flights had been canceled, but he did it anyway. I mean, he was a very seasoned helicopter pilot. So.
It says here, Kobe Bryant, a helicopter firm, was not allowed to fly in fog. It's BBC World News today, actually. So
I don't really think that's
very new news. Or?
It's not that uncommon for them to do that, though. But it's just obviously things went shit.
Right. Well, if you start, I don't know why put your life in jeopardy like that. I'm not saying it's their fault, right? I don't know who gets the clearance or who doesn't get the clearance in this case and flies anyway, who makes the call. But for example, regular aircraft, if it's like hazardous weather, the flights get canceled, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're not gonna fly if it's super dangerous. So why would helicopters do that? Helicopters, if anything, seem more susceptible to it. Like maybe he really needed to get somewhere and he was like, fuck it, we need to go. Like he had some important thing or whatever. But
yeah, that's the other. I mean, we can only speculate. I mean, it could be, Kobe's a very famous guy. Maybe you feel under pressure to fly, even though maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, obviously terrible. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
This is actually the worst transition. So, Penis Man. Do you guys remember? Do you remember Penis
Shannon,
Man?
You could have put this in different order. You are in control of what we talk about point by point. Why Penis Man? Well, it's good. You're good at lightening the mood with your planning. I'm going to say that. That's great.
I mean, I did have an NBA topic that we're going to discuss briefly right after this. I just didn't want two NBA things in a row, and the only other thing is Penis Man. So Penis Man, as you guys know from a previous episode, was a very famous, at this point, infamous, if you will, graffiti artist. I don't even know if you can call him an artist. It was literally just graffiti saying Penis Man all over Phoenix, Arizona, and Tempe specifically. He has been caught, Syndra, and in American fashion, it took an entire SWAT team to bring him down.
It's like it's a fucking parody, man. That's so good. It's like you look at this article and you think it's The Onion, Penis. Okay, here's the title, guys. Let me read this out to you, literally word by word. Penis Man graffiti artist arrested by 25 heavily armed SWAT officers. That's only NA, man.
Very serious business.
And then there's the mug shot of him, and I'm just imagining 25 SWAT officers getting this guy, and he just has a fucking spray can.
Yeah, the only way you guys can find out more information on what he looks like, because I'm sure people are very curious, is to Google Penis Man. Don't do it with incognito mode. Google needs to know that you're interested in this for ads in the future. So yeah, I'll keep you guys apprised because I know everybody's super interested in this.
Did Boner Dude make a tribute to him now?
I don't know. I have not heard anything on Boner Dude. He's gone into hiding. Maybe he's trying to
avoid the
make
SWAT
Penis
team?
Man avoid the SWAT team, or just pretend that Penis Man is now the fall guy for both Penis Man and Boner Guy. So
actually, what a way to go out, man.
Yeah.
Get arrested by a SWAT team for making graffiti. Holy shit. Does it say anything about his punishment yet?
Not that I know of, but when we hear more about it...
well, it's the U.S. He's probably getting corporal punishment, so...
Let's hope so. God can only hope. No, he'll probably be... I think they do want to make an example of him, because he did get famous within the Valley, so would not be surprised
famous for being
a few
awesome.
Years. Yeah, he is awesome. I agree. Okay.
So funny.
Last topic. I just want to do a quick rant. Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns, Syndra, was not selected to the All-Star team, and I was very upset by this. He was considered a lock by many. By many, I mean the people that actually understand basketball from an analytical level.
He was such as myself,
such as yourself, and I'm very upset.
I did tweet at you, and then you didn't get it.
Yeah, you replied to me, and I genuinely have no idea what you meant. Like, obviously, that went over my head. Whatever the hell you said. Do you want to explain it to me?
I don't even want to explain it on the podcast. It's not good.
It's probably
I'll
too
explain
basic.
it later. Yeah.
So Devin Booker is averaging like 27 points a game on historical field goal percentage numbers, Syndra, and yet was not selected the All-Star team.
Field goal? That's NFL.
Sure. I mean, technically, yeah.
I know this term. I know this. Why would he get into the All-Star match if he starts kicking the ball? That's not how you play basketball.
So you don't know anything about basketball then, Syndra. You can kick the ball all you want.
Well, I'm pretty sure that doesn't make you an all-star.
If you kick it into the basket, it's 5 points. Just FYI.
Okay, that sounds very believable.
So the problem I have with the all-star game is the fact that there's always been this like criteria for it that everybody follows. Oh, you have to have a good record. And the Suns, their record is not great, but they're in the hunt for the playoff spot still. And there's players that were invited that have a worse record and worse stats, everything worse than Booker. So this makes me very angry. And the one that especially makes me angry for all the Houston Rockets fans out there, Russell Westbrook is a pile of fucking shit. This player sucks ass. His field goal percentage is horrific. How can you play with James Harden, who spaces the floor for you? Everybody double teams this guy. You get wide open three, Syndra, and he only shoots a 23% from three-point range. Disgusting. Horrible player. Super overrated. Booker should be an all-star. Disgusting NBA.
I could do better.
Completely rigged. Okay, let's move on to actual topics. I got my rant out of the way, and this has actually woken me up, so I'm really glad we did it in this order. Boner guy, onto Booker, and onto Dota stuff. So,
is it Boner guy? I thought it was Boner dude. It was probably Boner guy.
Penis man, Boner guy. Yeah, it was Boner guy.
Right.
So, Dreamleague Major has
What about the
ended.
Oscar bet? Is there nothing yet?
No. We still have yet to talk about what we're going to be doing for the Oscar bet.
Okay, do you have an idea? Oh, we can talk about it another time.
I don't have. That's why I'm skipping it, Syndra. Take a hint.
I see. Okay? Well, we could take suggestions.
Okay. If you guys want to post comments in YouTube, that's probably the best place for us to
post a suggestion for what the punishment should be for the loser of the Oscar bet.
And make it reasonable. Let's not go ham here. I mean, usually the suggestions are garbage. No offense, guys, but give it a little effort, you know?
Record a video of you shooting three-pointers until you score 10 in a row.
10 in a that's a little hard, especially in my I will get a heart attack before that.
Yeah, probably.
We could do physical activity. I'm actually okay with that. Well, it needs to be better than that though, because you need to do push-ups and I need to do what?
Absolutely not. We'll come up with something stupid instead.
I want to see you do push-ups.
Of course you do. The whole world does, but that is reserved for me and the carpet.
Wow, that sounds
and I guess
sexual.
The dog maybe.
Wow, that's even more sexual. Okay, so the Dreamleague Major, Syndra.
Grapefruit juice. Sorry, somebody just wrote that.
What? Oh, you need
somebody
to drink
suggested
grapefruit?
If I lose, I need to take a bath in grapefruit juice.
That
sounds really unhealthy.
That sounds like it would sting your penis hole quite a bit.
Yeah, okay. I was not really thinking about that, but probably that too.
But Boner Guy could do it. So
that's a no. I don't think we're going to do that.
So on to real topics, Syndra. Dreamleague.
Let's go.
Secret beats EG after being down 2-1, 3-2. It was the final score. I watched a few games. I didn't watch the finals, I won't lie, but I did watch, obviously, we did the qualifier casting, and I watched a few of the upper bracket games. What were your thoughts overall on this tournament?
I think as the tournament progressed, something that surprised me a bit was the game duration. Like, games got longer. It was like the teams got better at not getting rolled over and understanding items better, understanding the map better, which isn't that unusual, but the average game time went up way high compared to what I thought it would. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of cool to see, because the concern a lot of people had was this tournament would be just full of stomps, like 30-minute games. You get an advantage, you hold the outposts, you hold the shrines, and then games just end relatively quickly. But we had some long games. I think we had a game of like 80 minutes with Alliance or something.
We saw, in the group stage, we cast, I don't know if it was you, me and Kezu, but we cast a 70-minute with Apex, I think on Drow, and that happened again in upper bracket, I believe.
Okay.
Which, we don't want to talk about this too much because we're going to be talking about the patch. But there were some broken-ass items in these 70-minute games that just ended immediately, right?
Yeah. Outside of that, I guess the thing most people are curious about is the finals. What I said after this finals was that it was the least even 3-2 I remember seeing. And it's not because the teams weren't relatively evenly matched or evenly matched in general. Like Secret had kind of been trashing everyone, and the finals was 3-2, so that's pretty close. But the games were pretty one-sided.
Close, right?
A lot of the games were just draft heavy. Like I'm looking at the match times now, and 3 of the games were about 45 minutes, and 2 games were about 35 minutes. But out of the 45-minute games, only 1 game was actually truly close. Like the other ones just had a team with a big lead pretty early on, just playing it clear and clean to end the game out, which I'm not blaming them for. I don't think they were like playing scared or being weak. It's just the strategy, the way the game works, that they had to do that in the games. But there was some seriously weird drafts in these finals for me, and it's a bit of a shame because like a 3-2 usually is like an epic final. Game 5 was a stomp. It was mega outpick as well. So that was a bit of a letdown. Like a lot of the times a final with one-sided games can be completely salvaged by a really exciting Game 5. We just didn't have that. So
it's funny that you say that, because now that you're re-explaining what happened, I'm actually remembering I did watch a couple of the games in the grand finals. They just were not memorable because they were complete stomps.
I mean, I think the perfect example of an extremely memorable final that had one really good game was TI3. Like, people completely forgot that the first 4 games were stomps, kind of. Like, they were really one-sided, and then we had this epic Game 5 when the teams had finally figured out what to do, and everything was on the line. And that can, it's that one game in the grand final with OG against TI8 grand final, OG against LGD. I think it was the Game 4. We had one amazing Game 4 as well. And then Game 5 was pretty one-sided, but it was still a super memorable final because of the whole storyline and like secondary things. And the Game 4 was amazing.
So what you're saying is TI4 still the worst finals?
Yes. They were the worst. And I think for a lot of the Western audience, they weren't as invested because it was 2 Chinese teams. I personally don't care that much about that. I care about good Dota.
It's less about that.
They were playing well. It was just the patch wasn't encouraging, exciting Dota. They cracked the code, and it was like just push towers really fucking fast. Games were over in 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't much interesting fighting. So.
It felt like this throughout the group stage and upper bracket. I mean, it makes sense to a degree, but it just felt like teams were still adjusting to the patch.
Mm-hmm.
Like just so many mistakes, it's just sloppy play, even though they're like, upper echelon teams. And then we're going to talk about the patch just in the next segment. But like the games that's part of why the games just felt very one-sided, right? Because the draft.
It takes this patch. I think people are underestimating how much it impacts pro play. And the best way I can explain it is, you know what, Shane? Here's a basketball metaphor for you, or simile. Let's say you've played basketball for 10 years and you're like very comfortable with it. And then you show up one day and now the ball is not round anymore. Now the ball is a square.
Wow, that's quite the transition.
Now it's a cube, right? And you just have to play with it. And basically what happens is when you need to throw, you need to consider the angle differently. You need to consider how you're holding the ball differently, how you pass differently, how you dribble. I mean, you can't even dribble with a cube. But basically, these players, when we play months and months of Dota, you get like muscle memory almost in situations. How tanky are heroes? How good are my spells? What happens when I combine my hero with my teammate's hero and we go on this third hero? You don't sit there and do all the math. You just have so much experience of playing Dota that stuff is kind of ingrained in your mind when you play.
Yeah.
You put in neutral items, which in many ways is a bigger change than even talents, actually, because talents are a gradual change in the game. You see this enemy team, okay, they're hitting level 10. You know what their talents are coming up. You know the heroes, and you go into the game. Now you have this feeling of a power level of an enemy hero, and they suddenly pick up 2 items. And if you don't get to pre-click them before the team fight begins, you're going in with the expectation that the fight is going to end and go like this, and you could be way off. Like the switches that happen during the game threw off all of your experience in the blink of an eye, and you need to relearn all of this, and that takes a lot of time. And the players haven't played thousands of games with this change, right? And for it to truly be something that's second nature to you in the game, you need to have played at least hundreds of games on the patch because there's so much variance. But we'll talk about in the patch how they've kind of combated that.
Not to go off on a tangent, Syndra, but your analogy is very interesting. because I know it's not to the same degree of changing like this with this patch in Dota, but basketball actually did something, 10% of what you're saying in, I want to say like 2007, 2008, something around that time. David Stern was the commissioner of the NBA at the time. They changed the material of the basketball just suddenly with no warning. They changed it from leather to like this rubbery composite, right? And the players hated it. And then after like 2 or 3 months of playing, there started to be reports like these point guards, especially like Steve Nash from the Suns and Jason Kidd from, I think he was in Dallas at the time, would have like horrible paper cuts all over their hands. And it was like all over social media. So once that was reported, they just went back to leather, and we've been with leather again ever since. So it's a really random change, but just, small change like that can make a huge difference still.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we don't really... I think the sport that... I love talking about tennis. That's why I know something about it. I think that might be one of the sports where the rules change the most. Like, over the last 50 years, there's been tons of changes in how you make rackets. There's been changes to ball composition. There's been changes to the surface. I want to say that probably has a huge impact. And it's not really something that's talked about much in commentary when it happens, but... like that can be the difference between, it can be the rise and fall of players almost, where if you're not good at adapting to this change and others are, you're just going to look way worse than you did before.
Syndra, I'm on an NBA roll right now because somebody just typed in chat, the 3-point line was once added to the NBA. That made a huge difference. But the biggest difference, in my opinion, in the last 20 years of the NBA is they started calling fouls on people on the perimeter where you touch them, like their hip or something like that when they're facing with the ball. So as a result of calling these fouls, it's now a much more offensive-friendly game. So more points are scored, more up-tempo games as a result. And it's funny that it works this way because now more people are shooting three-pointers as a result because of the spacing and whatnot. Everything has changed. So centers have become almost obsolete to a degree. Like centers now need to shoot threes for the most part, barring a few exceptions. So just little stuff like that can have huge impacts. And as a result of those changes, they got these huge TV deals because everybody's more interested in the NBA because it's all offensive now, offensive heavy. And now teams are worth like double, triple what they used to be in the early 2000s. It's actually crazy.
That's pretty fucking crazy.
I'm just
let's change the rules like that in Dota as well. Let's make us rich.
I mean,
you can do this.
TI,
Yeah, change the rules for TI so people invest twice as much.
That's right. Okay,
How
let's move
about
on to the patch.
Don't make TI bigger, Shannon. We've talked about this.
7.
We'll make the rest bigger.
That's true. There's a lot of work to be done on that front. But 7.24 Syndra was released right after the major. And, well, it sounds like Icefrog listens or watches this podcast. I'm pretty sure that's been confirmed at this point because neutral items now have their own designated slot. Congratulations, Syndra. Golf. This is not a This is an actual clap.
Can I just tell you? Can I tell you this was not my idea, and I never claimed it was?
This was Syndra's idea, guys. Syndra.
This was not my idea. I never claimed it was, and I was said that it was. I was told that it was one of the things that were considered, and I was like, "This is a good idea." So I cannot take credit for this. I can take credit for a couple of other things in the patch, but this one was not my idea, Shannon. I'm sorry.
Why would you do this to me?
I
just made a big deal about you being smart, and you just literally shat on my face.
I don't like when people give credit incorrectly. I don't like taking credit for other people's work, or I wouldn't like if other people get credit for my work.
I mean, move to America after a year, you'll transition.
Yeah,
just
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be perfect in American university.
So what do you think of this change? We can, talk about your thoughts now that you've seen it first.
I think it's the second best option that came to mind. Number one was to remove the concept and take the best items into the store, and this is the second best. And I have played games quite a lot since this patch came out, and I think it's much, much better.
Mm-hmm.
It feels way fairer. You have the extra drop as well. The neutral items now drop 4 instead of 3. So there's a really high chance that every player in the team gets one good one, and you distribute them like among the tier, right? The feel is just so much better when you play. There's not this ridiculous monster that shows up with 3 items level minute 25 and it's just unkillable.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen anymore.
And the item
this
stash
was a very needed and good change.
The neutral item stash is awesome. Being able to teleport items. I never thought of that one. That's super cool. I love that. Backpack slot has been reduced from 4 to 3 as a result of these changes. That makes sense, I think. Ancients drop a higher rate, which is kind of cool. I mean, we don't need to go through the whole notes, obviously, but I just want to highlight some of the more important ones. Shrines have been removed. They finally removed shrines after all these years. Do you like that?
I mean, it's been 3 years, right? Weren't they a 2017 thing, I think?
I couldn't tell. It was
Maybe.
December
It might
of
feel
some
like an
year.
eternity. In Dota, 3 years is a long time anyway. Yeah. So they removed shrines, and what they did instead was that where the shrines were, they put the outposts. So now the sides of the map are desolate. There's nothing there. And that's kind of weird because there always has been something in Dota 2.
Side
There's been the
shop, anyone?
side shop, and then outpost, and now there's just nothing. And it makes me think that space will be used for something, but I have no idea.
It's second kind of, and third Roshan. Boom.
Or they bring back the side shop. Who knows? That would be kind of funny. That was full circle in like 6 months. Yeah. So what happened is now that the outposts are in the respective jungles, they can be captured from the beginning of the game, but they still give the rewards at the same time. And then they got mega nerfed in vision. They had 1400 flying vision. Now they have 700 ground vision. So they're like a mini ward. They have Truesight though, which is kind of cool. Still, in that range.
Yeah.
So what this means is, without going into too much technical detail, it's a pretty big buff to Dire because they're now the only team that has an outpost close to Roshan.
Mm-hmm.
If Radiant control this outpost, it's obviously a different story, but the layout of the map, that will be a big point of contention this patch, is having that outpost, because that is the way you control Rosh. There's no secondary TP location anymore for the Radiant, except if they have that outpost. If mid tower falls, the distance to Rosh Pit is pretty long. So
you think it's going to be a Dire heavy meta?
I don't know if it will be Dire heavy, but supposedly Dota has been Radiant favored for a very long time. So it's good to have something that clearly favors Dire. And now let's see what the numbers end up saying, right? For win rates. It's debatable because the Radiant's default gameplay is to take the Dire top tower and then get into the jungle and take that outpost. I just think controlling the area will be harder, and teams will be doubling down on holding that area as Dire as well. So it should lead to some really interesting gameplay. But we have to see. They didn't change the map layout much beside that, so maybe it's easy to get for Radiant and Protect. I think it's just we'll see what the high skill teams end up doing about this. Because you could argue if the Radiant get it anyway, if the Radiant get it because teams don't adapt their play and the Radiant will get it just like they used to with the shrine area after they take the top tower, it could be even more Radiant favored than the previous patch.
Syndra, I'm really offended you didn't congratulate me on my idea being implemented into the game.
Which one?
I said the bounty runes should not be by outposts. They should separate all of them. That's true. Now it's much more spread out. It is weird that the outposts are in the jungle. It's going to take some getting used to. I've played 20 games maybe. It just takes a lot of getting used to. From a Radiant side, it's who gives a shit about this outpost? I mean, we need it, but I'm rarely going to TP to it. You know.
See, this is the perfect example of what I talked about when you change the rules, right? This is like the most basic thing. It's a rune that goes from one spot to another spot, and you still do double takes for like 50 games about where they are.
Yeah.
So think about when neutral items get introduced and then pro Dota. It's like a totally different ballgame. It's so crazy.
Getting 4 bounties at the beginning of the game is almost impossible now.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't think it's a problem that's extremely difficult.
I'm not saying it's a problem. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
GPM talents have been removed. I don't think we need to discuss this because that was kind of...
We wanted that, so we did it.
We wanted that. Void Spirit and Snapfire added to Captain's Mode. Congratulations to them. That. No Aghanim Scepter, though, for either of them. Come on, Icefrog. Nope. What's the deal? Huh? Unbelievable. Couriers level 15 and 25 no longer can use items of any kind, and couriers are no longer tied to your passive gold, which I kind of liked that, but it did feel like heroes like Nature's Prophet. I mean, the whole warding your base at level 1, it was weird, but I don't know why I liked it. It just felt, it was kind of a cool thing, but they just pretty much scrapped it now.
So what they did was they made it more punishing for your courier's lifetime when it dies. The respawn is longer by 10 seconds, and you get a little more bounty for killing it as well. So the killer gets a bigger benefit, and you have a smaller net worth loss, but a bigger convenience loss. That's basically it.
Tier 5 items are now at 60 minutes. So the first game I played, by the way, went 70 minutes again. It also had a lion in the game. Just, a little trivia for you there, Syndra. It just never ends. This fucking hero. But as a result of lowering it to 60 minutes, these tier 5 items got some heavy, heavy nerfs. which I think we're all pretty happy. I think the one that people were complaining about the most was Apex, which was based on percentage of your main attribute. Now I believe it's just a fixed amount, like 70 of your main attribute.
75.
I don't know if we want to go over anything specific in these changes because there was a lot of obviously tweaks.
Yeah. I have yet to have a tier 5 item. Maybe we'll be talking about it in the future. I still haven't had, in this patch, I haven't had a 60-minute game.
Poor Syndra.
But we'll see.
Maybe in one of our A to Zs. One of our A to Zs feels like it'll go 60 minutes.
It was close, right? It was 50-something on the previous version. So it's likely to happen for us in A to Z, I think.
I guess we can mention a few of the tier 5 items that got mega nerfed. Like Mirror Shield cooldown is from 4 to 8. That's massive. Pirate Hat went down from 250 attack speed to 150. It's basically a Moon Shard now for all intents and purposes, but you get 300 gold for getting a kill. Kind of an interesting twist. Oh, Phoenix Ash was removed. I actually forgot about that one. We talked about how that was kind of one of those that may be removed, but we should mention Repair Kit was not taken out, but no multi-shot.
So do you like? I think, so out of I'll mention one thing that I suggested because we have to do that with the memes. They put in my Essence Ring suggestion. Very happy about that. Because, we were talking about how Essence Ring is so stupid on IO. And now instead of healing, it just gives you flat bonus health for 15 seconds. So it doesn't trigger healing or heal amp in any way.
That was specifically your suggestion as well, right?
Yeah, this is one that I wanted and we got. There's like a couple. I just want to highlight this one because it was, it's kind of a meme at this point with us and Essence Ring. So I wanted to point that out. And outside of that, Repair Kit, I wanted removed, so didn't get that one. I don't like this item. I still think it doesn't belong in the game, but holding on to it for now. I think Fusion Rune and Phoenix S being removed is fine. Probably removing Fusion Rune is a necessity, especially when they start dropping minutes 60. Like, that's just fucking crazy at that point.
Fallen Sky no longer has the disregarding damage on Blink, but you can also just get the full item now. So that's kind of cool. But Trident, I don't believe is the case, right? They nerfed it slightly from 33% to 30, but I think you still have to build it. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know, man. This item's weird.
Am I wrong, or is it the full item?
You need to build it. You need to build it.
That was a weird one.
And
I still think Book of the Dead is maybe the worst tier 5. They changed it so there's only 2 sets now, but they have 50% more HP and damage. Is that really significant?
That's better, but still not great, I think. What else? I wanted Trusty Shovel removed, or to not be able to dig up bounties. That was something I was hoping for as well, which didn't happen. I think I talked to Knoxville at after Leipzig. I think Trusty Shovel has the highest win rate out of every neutral item in the game. I'm pretty sure it was definitely top 3 highest win rate.
Really?
Huh. Yeah, because it's free gold, right? Like, it's a tier 1 item that gives you health, and over the duration of a long game, you probably dig up like 5 to 10 bounty runs. That's a lot of money. Like, it matters. If you do that consistently in games that are even, this slight advantage is that next extra item before the Roche fight. And in games that are one-sided, it's irrelevant, right? In the one-sided games, it doesn't matter because they're probably win or loss anyway. But it's a tiebreaker item that will make a lot of difference, I think. That's why. So I still think this item is too good. At least they reduced the health by 50. But I think you could have either removed this item from the game or increased the lowered the cooldown and then removed the ability to dig up bounty runes so that you dig up more utility, get more TPs, more flasks, whatever it is.
I don't know if this makes it counterintuitive, but what if the bounty rune only applies gold to you and not your team?
Yeah, that would be a huge nerf too. That would also... Yeah, that might be too weak. No, that's fine, I think, honestly.
Well, you want to delete it. That's kind of weak. It's a weak item if it doesn't exist,
Well, that's true.
Is there anything else in this patch that's... there's a lot of changes. We're not going to go through any more probably, but is that good enough?
I think the big conclusion here is there's tons of hero changes too, like just regular balance stuff. I'm just really happy with this patch. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it stays very true to what we like about Dota. And even though some of us are not huge fans of neutral items, this is a really good compromise where you keep the system for the people that think it's fun. And it doesn't become overly intrusive in the if you will, boomer Dota gameplay. So, we still get to play our old game. Yeah, I'm super happy. I think last episode we talked about the matchmaking change. It keeps delivering. My games are so much better.
Me too.
It's really good. I would love if they didn't change it now. Like they don't need to try to improve it by a little bit with the risk of it failing. Just right now is so good. Like don't change it.
So good.
Yes, very, very nice matchmaking right now.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. Obviously there's going to be anomalies where your game is garbage, but that's just life.
This has been, it's hard to remember back many years, but I want to say this iteration of matchmaking is one of the 5 best we've ever had. And that might not sound great, but we've had a lot of iterations.
We've had hundreds.
So it's still really good right now. Maybe it's even top 3. Like the matches are just very good for the most part. Doesn't mean every game is close. Like Dota has stomps, even if the matches are even in skill. There will be draft issues, there will be outplays, there will be communication, whatever it is. But as long as it feels like the playing field is interesting every game, in a positive, interesting way, not in a negative, interesting way, then I'm happy. So,
okay,
it's pretty good.
That's great to hear. So I'm glad you're happy with your life right now.
Yeah, awesome.
Truesight was recently released. Did you watch it?
I did not, Shannon. However, I did watch something else.
Yeah, okay. What, you watched the second version of Truesight where the players had reactions?
No. No, I haven't watched Truesight yet. Did you watch it?
Yes, I watched the non-player version. I thought it was really good. Somebody in chat had a good suggestion that we should mention this, that it's not a true documentary. It wasn't in chronological order or anything like that, but I found it very intriguing. It was super interesting to see like how close the teams were mentally in terms of like the drafts. Like they both were just finishing each other's sentences, so to speak, despite being in different booths. Kind of humanized the whole thing. I'm a Weehaw fanboy. I felt so bad for him. It was just crushing.
I've seen some of the like highlight clips or shots or texts or whatever from it with subtitles on. And yeah, I mean, I think any game at a high level of competition is extremely high highs, low lows, big pressure, mentality driven. I don't think there is any sport in the world that isn't extremely mentally taxing at the highest level. That is the hardest thing about being really competitive about something, is how competitive everyone else is. It's tough. And it's cool that people get to see that, because I feel like a lot of the time in commentary or in, when you watch the games, that human aspect isn't really there that much, but there's so much that happens outside of the game that has a huge impact on what happens inside the game that people don't see. Like the impact of having someone like Ceb on your team, or the impact of being good at dealing with losses as a team, or, the impact of just having one really good friend in your team that can pull you up, like whatever it is, it makes a huge difference. So it's really cool to see those things, right?
I wasn't sure what to expect because the series itself wasn't great. Liquid won game 1 in, I guess you can call it epic fashion, but it was more like the way that I looked at it, we talked about this before, is just Ana didn't buy back, and it was really weird. I was like, what the hell just happened?
But the clip right afterwards was really revealing, right?
So here's the thing about that clip. I did see this clip. You did see that. Okay, I want to hear I did see that clip. Your take on that, and I'll give mine.
So basically what happened, right, was that they lost the game, Ana didn't buy back, and then afterwards he was like, sorry, I should have bought back. And then Ceb was like, don't worry about it, man. You carried us the whole game. You made one mistake. It happens. Like, that's the kind of thing you want to hear as a player that just lost the game. It's not, yeah, man, you fucked up. Please don't make that mistake again. Like, it doesn't help, But I think Ceb had a very good understanding of how to enable Ana as a player in that team. And that is a huge part of their success, is mental. I don't think individually as players that OG were better than other teams necessarily. Maybe on certain positions they can contest for like top 3 player in the position or whatever, if you will, if you are very much into like player by player comparison. But it's a team game. It's about being a good team.
I don't know if
that's awesome to see, right?
I don't know if other people took the same thing away that I did. I need to rewatch it probably to maybe double check, because I felt like watching it, my mind was changed that it actually wasn't really his fault, because I remember, and again, I need to watch it again, but I remember him asking, like right when he died, should I buy back? And his team said no. And then it got to a certain point where he's like, I don't really want to buy back. Like then he started to say, I don't really want to buy back, even though it was getting kind of close, and he ends up doing it a little bit later. It was like maybe 5 seconds later than that point. So that was kind of weird for me, because I didn't feel like it was entirely his fault.
At the time that the no is called, I think it's a good call. That's the thing. Like, you can't make a universal call for what's going to happen in the next minute. You have a read on the situation, and the situation will change. And I think when Ana asked, Ceb said no, or whoever said no in that clip. The enemy starts pushing down mid, and you're like, okay, they're pushing faster than we thought, or oh wow, they're actually going to try to end the game, and then you might need to buy back, right? But if it was to contest a Roshan, or whatever it could have been, then the conditions change. And I generally don't think situations like that are one player's fault, almost ever. It's a team decision. It's a team moment. You could argue that the guy with the buyback has more responsibility, but they're communicating and they're making the decision together. So, and he felt bad, right? Because it's him, it's his hero. But I agree, it wasn't much more his fault than anyone else's. But in the narrative of the game, when people watch, it's going to look like Ana is an idiot, right? That's what's so fascinating about this stuff, is that
that's why I was looking
you
forward
don't
to
hear
it
the comms, you don't see it.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah,
I think
that was really good.
Other stuff that I took away from it was really interesting to see the dynamics of how, like, the lower bracket run for Liquid was really good. Obviously, I don't think they dropped one game, I want to say, or maybe they did in the lower bracket finals, but they were spamming TA and Tidehunter, and they were crushing everyone with it. And once they got to OG, those heroes just didn't work anymore. Like, I felt really bad for Mind Control, especially because he just could not do anything on Tidehunter.
Yeah.
And
then Kuro said, just play more like Ceb, dude.
Yeah, that was a little weird of a comment, not gonna lie. But also it
was the right comment, actually.
It shows the mentality. I meant from like is it the right comment from a morale standpoint, though? I don't think so.
I think people misunderstood it, and I think some people did, right? Most people probably didn't. But the way I didn't see the clip, okay, so I don't know what the intonation was. If Kuro was fuming, I would assume he wasn't. He's generally pretty calm and composed. But obviously what he meant was playstyle-wise. He knows Mind Control is an amazing player that is super flexible in how he plays the game. And they were struggling to find footing in this finals. And he was like, we need Mind Control to play more like Ceb's style, not, lol, you're playing like shit, just play better. Ceb is playing great today. Like, that's not...
No.
And if you know the captain like that, if you know how he talks about Dota, if you know the way he explains things, I wouldn't take any offense to that if I was the offlaner in that situation. It's strictly a strategic call that we need to change our strategy so that you are more active. I'm sure Mind Control knew exactly what he meant in the moment.
You're probably right. I think the way that they, like, again, you can be manipulated based on the drama of the actual movie itself, right? The way that they set it up, because like, you feel bad for Mind Control. He's obviously down, and then a comment like that just takes it to the next level, at least in our minds, or my mind at least.
I mean, it is a great quote in the moment because of the duality of what it can mean, right? But really, he's not. Kuro would not break down like that in the grand finals and tell his player, "Well, you're playing like shit. Play better."
But like, some of the picks, they just kept picking them, and they weren't working against OG, despite them working against every other team. And you have to understand that mentality, right? Like, from our side, when we're watching it the first time, like, why do they keep picking these heroes? Well, because not only are they comfortable with them, but they crushed everyone else. But just so happens OG's playstyle just dominates these specific heroes. So you get a little bit more empathy, understanding of what actually happened. And then the last game where Io was picked, they just let it through. Like, let's just let basically everything through, and we'll get 2 out of the 3 heroes. But Io was just busted beyond, like, that's probably one of the most broken heroes of all time, I want to say. And at least in the last 5 years, that iteration of Io was, I think they did not lose one game. It was largely
ignored in the tournament. It's so funny, like,
because not everyone could play it at that time, right?
Exactly. Nobody played it core except Ana, really. Yeah. That was funny to see.
But the thing that I loved
I will tell you, though, before I will watch Truesight. Okay, I'm not gonna not watch it. I just haven't got around to
just
doing
like
it.
In Bruges,
I watched the first one.
Okay,
I will watch it.
Good to know.
But yeah, I still think this was a pretty good talk without me having watched it, to be honest.
I agree. Okay, let's move on, because after Truesight, OG made some announcements which carried over from previous days, and then the next day, which is actually kind of good that we're doing a podcast now, because we can just cover everything. Ana will not be coming back this season. They said he will be coming back next season, which is kind of a weird announcement based on their full roster that was revealed, which we'll get to in a couple minutes here. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Ana might not come back. But they're basically extending the lease, right, if you will. I don't know if that's the word, but I mean, it's speculation, right? He might. But if you look at how he has been playing competitive Dota, maybe he will get the thirst for it again, or the hunger for it. But he has kind of been taking very long breaks and then come back to OG when they really needed it, shortly before TI. And then he kind of disappears again. So it makes you wonder if that passion or that fire for it is kind of fading. I think in the past he would be way more actively playing and be more hungry for the competitive Dota. And again, it's speculation. I could completely be wrong.
It could come down to him being burnt out for a period of time.
It is just a weird... it's a weird situation, right? To have that long break and still, like, the wording doesn't say he's coming back to the team either. It says he will extend his break and come back for the next season. It doesn't, maybe he has told the team, he's like, guys, I need a longer break. I don't know if I want to play Pro Dota anymore, or maybe I know I do, but I just need to reset for a longer time. I really want to just do something else with my life for a year and then come back to playing. And then who knows if you will be playing for the team, because being gone for a year and then just coming back to claim your throne is not really something that works most of the time in Dota.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to say, right, what he wants to do. And I think, regardless of what he does, he's been incredibly successful in Dota, right? So
he can do whatever he wants. He can retire, basically.
Yeah,
at this
point.
He could, depending on the country you live in.
Dota is weird like that. How many majors did Ana win? Did he win 2? I think. Is that what people forget about OG? Like, 4, everybody talks about the 2 TI wins, but OG had a ridiculous streak at one point where they were just owning every tournament. They won LAN after LAN majors.
The first 2 majors were with Miracle and Crit, I believe, right?
Yes.
And Fly.
And then I think Ana won 2 with them as well.
Yeah, the last 2 were Ana.
He won the Kiev Major. I remember that. I was casting that finals. He had Troll against Alk, I think. And they were definitely losing that game to VP. And then they
I think S4 was on the second iteration as well.
Yes, I think so too.
Very
super accomplished. Like, very few but very big wins, right? That's kind of
percentage.
That's kind of what OG has been, which is fascinating. Like, people consider them the greatest team of all time. Many people do, because they've won 2 TIs, and there's nothing. You can't take anything away from that. It's just funny, like, over the scope of the entire game, how relatively low tournament wins some of these players have, especially someone like Thompson, right? Has he won anything else than 2 TIs? I don't even know if he's won another tournament.
I don't think so, because they didn't do shit DPC wise.
It's so crazy to think about. Like, the perspective of that is unbelievable.
It's just clutch, man.
That's awesome. It's just awesome. I don't know what
balls
to say.
of steel.
It's just awesome.
Did you see his outfit? Did you see pictures of it?
I did. Dude, he has changed, man.
He's hilarious. He's a cool guy.
He has changed.
Okay, so moving on to the next player from OG.Jerax has officially announced his retirement. I'm going to read a quick quote from the article. I have no willingness nor passion to play Dota 2 anymore, and I have trouble fitting myself into my competitor's shoes. For me, the decision to pursue another direction is clear, and I have no doubts about it. That was... I feel like people retiring isn't that shocking, especially when they win, because it's hard to get motivation to do it again, and they've done it twice. And, some level you're like, they're probably going to come back. But saying you have no willingness or passion to play Dota 2 anymore, that was actually shocking for me to read.
Yeah, to play Dota 2 at all, it sounds like, right? Yeah. It's just done with the game. It's not just playing Pro Dota or taking a break. It's just, I want something else in my life than this video game, which... I think it's a really big step to take, but I also think it's very admirable in a way. It's like, you set yourself a competitive goal, you made it, now you want to do something else in life. This is something that happens to a lot of people that do something competitive, is once you've reached your goal, and maybe even surpassed it. They won 2 TIs. It takes a toll on you. It's really stressful. There's so much going into it. If you can't find the motivation to keep doing it, it will be depressing because you will constantly be feeling like you're letting your team down. And they probably want to hold on to you because they know what greatness you can achieve, and they will keep giving you second and third chances. But if you don't feel it yourself, you don't want to spend all the time and energy on it and waste other people's time. And it's really admirable for people. I think this is a hard call for a lot of players to make. It's this thing about quitting while you're on top. That's really hard because you're on top and you're rolling, right? Man, I'm fucking owning the world. But he's a really reasonable person. It's like super down to earth, I think he has a very logical outlook on things, very, clear mind. And he's had time to reflect upon it and think about it. And, a lot of people consider it a big loss to Dota that he's not playing anymore. In a way, it would be a bigger loss if he keeps playing but isn't good and isn't feeling good, right? Like, that's a bigger shame. Then you're kind of like spoiling your legacy or making your team look bad.
That's an interesting segue why force it, right? In a few minutes, which we'll change topics to because we have another player to discuss. But for OG, to finish it off, Ceb, I like how 3 players are not playing for OG anymore, but they're all for different reasons, right? One's retiring in Jerax. Ana is doing God knows what. It's just on break. And then Ceb is like, it's not a retirement, but it could be based on the article. So I'll just read another quick quote. It's time for me to take a step back and remove myself from the active roster. I will be taking a role within OG in which I will be able to help all teams and players in increasing their performance. Whether it's Dota, CSGO, OG is now a home for great champions to come. I'll be able to put my experience to even better use alongside these talents. I do not want this to sound like a definitive retirement, even though it could very well end up being it. I love the surprises that come with life. Therefore, I'll always keep every door open. So this sounds like taking more of an organizational role, trying to grow the brand. Well, he said that Sashka will also be there. So 2 coaches, Syndra?
I think Ceb will be more of a how to explain it. I think he'll be more of a macro coach for both games. Like, not really a life coach, but more of a... He has an experience that Sashka doesn't, even though Sox has now been with the team for a while. Like, his understanding of how to make teammates play around each other and enable them. And I'm sure he has passed down some of his knowledge and all of the things he has learned to Sox, but I would imagine that what Ceb will be doing is helping the teams play better together, as broad as that might sound. A lot of the times, coaches, like, we talk about 2 types of coaches to make it simple. There's the life coach, who helps with interpersonal relations, and then there's the strategy coach that helps with drafting or analyzing replays or preparing for opponents. I could easily imagine that they will not necessarily do a hard division, but have Sashka be more of a team prep guy for OG and for Dota only, whereas Ceb could be more of a enabling coach for both CSGO and Dota, like helping teams with how to build trust in each other, how to structure your team so that everybody brings out the best in each other, helping them solve problems so that they can play at their absolute best. I could see something like this maybe, but I don't know. It's just my reading of it and knowing Ceb a little bit. I think it really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it was a cool announcement because it sounds like he's got his shit together, right? He knows what he's doing at this point.
Yeah, he does. No one's going to doubt Ceb anymore.
Leaving the doors open is always a good choice as well. So, yep. Okay, and then the final announcement from OG. Feels like an OG podcast right now. Their roster was announced. So No Tail and Topson will be returning, and they will. And this is a rumored lineup. I can't remember if we actually discussed it or not, but they will be joined by Saksa, my boy, as the position 4 or 5, probably the 4, and Sumail and mid 1. This is a star-studded lineup. We talked about Saksa being very underrated. I think he's one of the best supports in the entire world. He has 3 of the top 4
best
MMR
free
accounts.
Agent, period, I think.
Yes.
Not because he's necessarily a better player at Dota than Sumail or mid 1, but because of the role itself and how good he is on that compared to the opposition that was available. He was the best player you could get.
And they needed somebody that, if you compare him to Jerax, I would consider him like a calm person, doesn't talk that much during the game, just is chill. That's Saksa. like exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I think he could
he
fill
is
in
the
quite
best
nicely.
replacement. And if you want to look over the other personalities, I think this team will work differently. I mean, clearly. And what everybody wants to see is how is it going to look, right? Because I think OG was truly something special, and I don't really know if you can ever mimic it. I think No-Tail is going to obviously do his best with these players to get something similar, but the way you get success with this team might be a different approach to how you play the game. But it depends on the patch and all of their ideas and whatnot. The player composition, like you said, Jerax to Soxa is pretty 1-to-1. It's very similar, at least. What is it? Ana to Sumail, I think, is a pretty big change in terms of personality and how they like come across on camera and the little bit we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Ceb to mid one is actually less of a transition than others might think in terms of in-game stuff, because I think mid one is very like he's a pretty vocal player. He makes calls, he sets things up, and he's going to be playing offlane for them, just like Ceb was. So I think the logic for OG was they want a high-skilled mechanical core player that can do in the game what Ceb did, with being semi-leader as well in game. And I think he's a pretty good choice. Now, the meme right now is that you have 3 mid players in the team, right? You have Thompson, Sumail, and mid 1. And we need to see how they adapt to their roles and how the whole piece comes together. This could be amazing, it could be terrible, and it could be okay. Like, I cannot tell you how good
EG,
this is
right?
at all.
You have
like,
Ramses from position 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Mid 1 can be from 2 to 3. Are you surprised, by the way, like if you had just seen the names, would you have put mid 1 in the off lane? Like, would that have been your guess originally? Okay.
Yes.
Because Sumail was playing
so.
off lane during his break,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's a mistake. Like, I don't think you put this player in offlane. I don't think that plays to his strengths, really. But at the same time, you know, what's fascinating about seeing these transitions in Dota or people switching between core roles and whatnot is it really shows how big a part of the game is being good at Dota, not being good at your role. A lot of the time, people kind of overrate, if you will, the importance of playing one lane or one role. In pro Dota, there's tons of lane swapping. Like sometimes the mid player is playing safe lane, sometimes the safe lane player is playing mid lane, sometimes the off laner has to go mid because it's his matchup there. These players are good. They know how to play at a high level. They have a good competitive mentality, and they're high skilled, so they can swap between roles. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be the same impact. Because I think, for example, Sumail in the offlane, I think it has potential in the right patch because he's he's an explosive playmaking player that also plays well with farm. Like, I don't think he doesn't play starved 3 playmaker like Clockwork. He doesn't play well with or as well, rather. He doesn't play as well with heroes that aren't farmed as he does with heroes that are farmed, where he truly stands out. But in the right patch, the position 3 can be perfect for that, and then he can play there. The main thing is you can move the pieces around, right? Exactly. It's about what the meta is. It's about what works there and then. You can tell there's like a bit of duality in what I'm saying, right? I'm saying like, yeah, players can play all these core roles, they can swap around, but at the same time I'm saying, you know, some things are better than others, which they are. It's not black and white. It's not like you're a mid player. If you don't play mid, you're shit, you know?
True.
Or
it's
you
just,
can only play carry. Like Dota doesn't work like that.
I will say more times than not, like the transitions that are quote unquote crazy to the outside public have not gone well traditionally, right? The ratio is not great
that's fair.
overall. Now,
it's
this was not on the agenda, but I do want to discuss one thing before we move on. I'm very interested in your opinion on this because mine is going to be like, I don't know if I even have an opinion on this, but this goes back to kind of basketball related mentality. So Sumail is a basketball fan, huge he calls himself the Michael Jordan of Dota. Like, first of all, before I get into this, I am a huge fan of Sumail. I think like the cockiness and all that, I actually love it. And we've talked about this on past podcasts. I love that because it feels like everyone's dead inside and then there's Sumail talking trash. I actually love that shit so much. Now, having said that, Sumail wants to be the Michael Jordan of Dota. Okay. He wants to, he's like, I'll have 6 TIs by the time my career's over, whatever his quote was. He pulled a LeBron James here, though, Syndra. He has gone to, and again, I know this is not the same as NBA, because in the NBA, if you win a championship, that's like all that matters, right? But you will be judged based on that. So like Kevin Durant maybe is a better example here. Kevin Durant went to a championship team that beat him in order for him to actually win. So it's not great on his resume because people don't respect him as much, but technically he's a champion, right? So Sumail obviously has a championship already, so that's not the best example, but he's going to a team that won back-to-back TIs. Do you think from a personal, egotistical, narcissistical standpoint, this will hurt him in terms of him being the best player of all time? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, no matter how many TIs he wins with this team, he'll always have one less than No-Tail and Thompson, right?
Right. It's like Kevin Durant going to Golden State. It's exactly the same for that part.
I don't know if he's really thinking about it. Maybe he is.
Probably not, but it's just an interesting
I think
thing.
Sumail's competitive mentality is, I want to play at the top, and I want to be the best. And the way I'm the best is if I'm playing with the best, and if I feel comfortable. And he's stuck with EG for a very long time through highs and lows. I don't feel like he's a team hopper, you know, like people are going to be like, oh, you left EG to join OG after they won TI. Well, he did play with EG for like 5 or 6 years. He's been like super loyal to EG. He's been like the rock of that team in many ways. You know, they even changed captains. They changed everyone else except Sumail has changed in EG in the last 5 years, right? Arteezy went back and forth between EG and Secret. Fly wasn't in the team originally. He joined.
Yeah.
S4 joined originally and left.
Arteezy is like
joined.
I really want to make like these examples now, like comparisons. Arteezy is like a LeBron James that has never won a championship. He's just bouncing from
so
team
harsh
to team.
when you say it like that.
Well, I love Arteezy, but that's just simple.
I saw a really interesting post today. In Dota, Arteezy is the 20th most earning player ever, I think, in Dota 2, without winning a major or TI.
Yeah, that's great.
That in itself is pretty impressive when you look at the prize pools. He's been like super consistently very high up. He just hasn't been number one.
Right.
And yeah, it's still a remarkable achievement. Like it was like $2.3 million in prize winnings without winning a major or TI. That is a lot of money.
All right, better example for Arteezy, Charles Barkley.
Okay, I agree, I guess.
Thank you.
The only thing I know about Charles Barkley is his ad.
His ad?
But anyway.
Which ad is this?
The one, I am not your...
Oh, role model.
Your parents... Yeah, exactly.
I'm not your parents. That really caught on back in the 90s. I'm not
Genghis
your parents.
Khan here.
Okay.
So anyway,
we can move on. So...
Oh, let's do it.
So the last Dota-related stuff, and then we got still a full list of things to talk about. Dendi has a new org called B8. Is it Bait or B8?
I guess it's Bait.
So they're going to be called Master
What
Bait?
What if it's all Bait? What if this whole reveal and the team name is a Bait, but they actually have another org?
Wow.
What a PR move.
So what do you think of this? They came out with a video. There's not that much information on it. Dendi's making his own org. Anything?
It didn't announce any players, right?
Not
Did it?
The original announcement, at least.
Has the roster been announced? I actually don't remember. I'm gonna Google.
Don't think so. I'm gonna say no.
No.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like anything is announced. So yeah, he's been talking about this wanting to make his own thing for a while. So I'm really happy for him that he's got something going. The video itself, I believe, was very well received and very well made.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that was a cool way of making the announcement. Got to see what the players are and everything. So I'm sure the transition you were looking for, we were talking about people quitting in their prime, right? With Jerax and Ana, we don't know if Ana quit and Ceb and whatnot. And obviously, Dendi's story has been kind of different. He was the icon for the game for a couple of years, and then things just got gradually worse. And I guess in many ways, it's tempting to quit. To me, this is like the opposite argument of the Jerax one, right? If you're not feeling it anymore, by all means, if you don't force yourself to play, if you don't have that drive. I think Dendi is inspirational in the other way. He's been beat down so many times. The community thinks he isn't very good anymore. He still has the drive. And I think by all means, don't quit then. Like, don't let everybody get to you and talk you down so that you give up, right? Like, if he's hungry, if he thinks he's still got it, let him play it, I would never say, man, you should have quit when you were good, that would have been such a better legacy. I think he's still a big person in Dota, right? He has his own team now, and then...
Am I the only one that feels like legacy is overrated?
In a way... in a way, it's a lot. Like I don't know if it's overrated because you want to be remembered. It's part of the competitive mentality, right? Is that you want people to care about you. Right? That's really what it is. You want to win, and the reason you want to win is that people care that you win, and that you care that you win.
Maybe I have a
right?
mental issue, Syndra. I don't care about legacy at all. I don't care if no one ever remembers me once I'm dead. I genuinely don't care.
Yeah,
at all.
That's just
not
that common. I think. I don't think, especially not for competitive people. I don't think that's common. I think the competitiveness is wanting to be the best, wanting to beat everyone, to prove yourself to yourself and to others, and the ratio between those can be very different. Like some people almost only care that they did it to themselves, like I accomplished my goal. And for some people, it's way more like I want everyone to think I'm the greatest, right?
What do you want to be remembered as, Syndra?
A bit of both, I think, if it was, right? Like, a lot of it for me is to prove to myself that I can do something. And a lot of it is like, obviously, like positive feedback is something that is amazing, right? Like having people acknowledge other people's accomplishments is a big deal, right?
Well, we're talking about different things. I'm talking about after you're dead.
Oh, yeah, man.
Like, I don't care after I'm dead because I'm dead.
Right, but we're not talking about the same thing with legacy here, because we were talking about, like, should Dendi have quit and then be remembered after he quit? Like, you can have legacy while you're alive, right?
No, I agree. I'm not saying Dendi's dead by all means. I did jump the gun a bit, a little bit of a transition there. So
I see. Okay,
not directly related to Dendi at all. That doesn't make any sense. I was just asking because I was just talking about with Nikki the other day. Like I feel weird that I'm the only person I know that doesn't care about any of that stuff. We can talk about this another time.
I don't know. I've thought about it a little bit. I don't really know how much I care about what happens after I'm gone, but I think having a legacy while you're alive is definitely something that everybody to some extent cares about.
Yeah, that's totally different. Yeah.
But that was the thing with this Dendi talk, right? Like a lot of people are like, he's past his prime. He should have quit long ago. He was the best at TI1 or TI2, TI3, that era. He got like 1 championship and 2 finals. He was considered the greatest player of all time for a while there. And then it just got worse and worse. But he wants to play and he has the drive. Let the man play.
It's commendable. And I think pretty much everybody is rooting for him regardless of whether they think he's good or not anymore.
I would love for him to do well for a couple of reasons. I'm so happy that Ceb did well, because it was a similar story. Like Ceb hadn't really had big successes. He had we played a TI together. We won a DreamHack that people thought was impossible because Navi was unbeatable at the time. So like in that moment, that was a great achievement. But in the grand scheme of Dota, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? Because it wasn't a TI. But people had counted him out. They were like, this player isn't good enough. So he starts coaching OG. He comes back to play. They're like, oh God, this will be terrible. Ceb can't play at this high level. Then he fucking wins and shuts everybody up. That's the shit you like to see.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
I love the underdog story where it's not just the underdog story, because sometimes people are the underdog and they're like, wow, you won. It's the one where people talk shit when they don't know, and then you shut them up. That's so satisfying to see. Like,
is that what you think of in your wet dreams, Syndra?
I mean, yeah, to an extent, like, right? There's so many people. So with Ceb, right? The example is with Ceb, people were like, this guy can't play at a high level, and then he fucking wins TI, and then they're like, oh man, it was a fluke. And then he fucking does it again. Shut the fuck up.
Dude, it's obviously a second fluke. There's no way. There's
come
no way
on. Like, how much proof do you need that this guy is world class, right?
No, I agree. It's a great story. And I think
awesome to see.
Obviously, the trajectory is quite different than Dendi. Dendi was on top to start, and it's just been steady downhill from then. For Ceb, I think the coaching helped him more than anything, honestly. All the players that went through OG over the course of the however many years he was coaching, being in that position to learn from all those genuinely, like, if you had a Hall of Fame, a lot of Hall of Fame players there, obviously helped him a lot, I think. And it doesn't hurt, of course, that he, like you said, he could be a life coach if he wants. Obviously, based on what we saw in Truesight, he's got that kind of mentality and rapport with his players and whatnot, that everybody respects him, and he does it in a respectful way that just is, it's a winning mentality at the end of the day. It's a Mamba mentality, Syndra.
It's, what's another great example of this?
At all.
Where I did not. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
There's another good example of this that you love to see, right? It's like TI6 to me it's very memorable because the team that won and the team that got second people didn't even think would get top 8, probably. Like, until shortly before. People thought Wings were really good, right? Going in. But when the roster was announced, people didn't even know who these players were. Like, nobody knew these guys. And they come out of nowhere, and they're, like, confident, and they're getting better and better. People don't count them in for much. Then you have the other team, DC, who's, like, the rejects. It's just it seems like a random mix, whatever is left over.
Suns fan their way every tournament. And damn Suns fans.
They pretty much sucked at other tournaments for the most part. They did not look good. And then
it was bad.
They did great at TI. And it's so cool to see because it's very memorable, and it goes to show, like, at this level of play with the level of players that are there really is the potential for any team to click and look like a totally different beast in the moment. Like, when things just come together, it's like that magical moment that just happens and everything just works. There are so many players that the community count out or say aren't good enough or gave up on long ago. And then there's, like, superstars that they feel like are untouchable, and then they're not. And that's really cool, right? That everybody can bleed and everybody can shine. So I love to see that shit. It's so good. I've talked in the past, though, on the podcast as well about how good it is to have, like, a top dog, and that I still think it's great for a game when there's a superstar, right? I think it's good for the game, it's good for branding, it's good for the promotion of the game and for the scene, because then it's also a magnitude when that superstar loses.
Right. I've always been an underdog fan. I
think we have a good scene overall.
Thus being a fan of the Suns my entire life. Syndra, they've always been the underdog. And I've just genuinely never understood, like, people being fans of teams that just win all the time. I don't get it. Yeah. Like, how is that satisfying? You know?
I don't know. You would in basketball, right?
To each... Huh?
In basketball, you wouldn't mind if Suns won 5 years in a row, right?
I would not mind. But it's been a long struggle of many years of mediocrity / god-awfulness. So if I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'll definitely take it. Okay, let's move on to non-Dota related stuff. Halflife Alyx, as you guys know, a VR-only game will be coming out in March, I believe. And as of now, all Half-Life series are free to play until that launch, which is really cool. If you guys, again, we're oldies here. At least I am. You're kind of up there. A lot of people have not played Half-Life 2 or the original Half-Life. They are classic games. Highly recommend you guys check those out since they are free now. And they did an AMA, Syndra, the Half-Life Alyx team, which we don't need to discuss for very long, but they did reveal a couple of things. A lot of more videos are going to be on the way. Apparently one of the devs, you know how they have head crabs that jump on your face? He apparently cannot handle that happening to him. He has to take the headset off, which worries me. But he says at the same time, he's literally the only one in the entire office that has that issue. I don't know if it's more of a, like, nausea thing.
I think I could have that issue.
I think it sounded like it was more of a he's too scared thing, as opposed to nausea.
I think it's about immersiveness. Some people can get incredibly immersed in stuff, whether it's movies or games or whatnot. And obviously the scare factor too, right? But I think those two kind of go hand in hand. I think the people that can get really scared by movies or scared by games are people that are very immersive, because to them it becomes so real. Like, the disconnect between, oh, I'm just watching something and I'm there, is, like, smaller. I have that, for example, with when I watch movies. I'm really I can, like, I forget the world while I'm watching a movie, unless it's terrible, like in Bruges. We'll get to that later. Or
tease.
Yeah, and this for the same reason. I really dislike watching. I don't watch scary movies. I don't play scary video games because I get too immersed into it. I actually just can't. Like, if there's a scary scene in a movie, we've talked about this before, right? How people react to scary scenes in movies. Maybe we haven't.
I don't think so.
If there's something scary that happens, it's funny because people do different things. Some people look away or cover their faces with a pillow, right? Like, that's the standard, the trope or whatever. I cover my ears. Really? I'm not, like, I don't get visually scared by things. It's the sound. It's always sound that scares me. That's why I hate jump scares. And in video games, when it's all too quiet and then it suddenly gets loud, that scares the fucking shit out of me.
So you're in a movie theater. Not that you have a lot of experience of being in a movie theater because you're so uncultured, but you're in a movie theater, let's say. Scary, like a jump scare occurs. You actually physically put your hands over your ears, like reflexively? as a reflex.
If there's something scary, and I feel like, especially in those suspense moments where you feel something is coming. I don't watch scary movies in the theater. I never would. But if it's really scary, then yeah, I would cover my ears.
Wait,
and I would
you
keep
would
watching.
prep it?
I would have.
You would prep it like this before it happens, or it's it? I'm asking, is it like a?
Yeah. Yes,
is it instinct for you just immediately?
I would prep it.
Wow.
If I feel like a jump scare is coming, I would cover my ears to not get that because it's the sound that's scary. It's not what's on the screen. Like
no, I
don't get like freaked out by gory shit, by anything. Like I have no problem with watching people's throats getting cut or whatever in movies.
You love it. God, I love gore.
Disgusting abominations or whatever that other people get freaked out. I don't care about the visual part. Is very easy for me to deal with. The sound is really. So I don't know. It's a different immersion thing, right? So for example, let's say this guy, if his immersion is very visual and is like really strong, then he will almost feel like, that's what you want VR to be, right? It's like maybe it's really intense for him, so he gets super uncomfortable when this thing jumps on him because in his brain it's like actually happening, right?
Right.
If you don't have that separation, I feel like for me, if I were to play VR in a game like that, the suspense and the sound that would come from these jump scares would like make me fall over. I'm not even gonna lie. If that thing jumped at me, I might just
it's disorienting. I can definitely understand. Now, by the way, not to go off on a tangent, but you should watch the movie. Not to add to your never-ending list of movies you never watch. A movie called A Quiet Place. Very good. Highly recommended for everybody listening. Anyway, continue. I should mention for Halflife Alyx. Yeah, in terms of what I do during a scary movie. The only thing I really get scared by, I agree, is, there's some creepy stuff that I wouldn't say I look away or anything, but like I might have a bad dream later from something. Mm-hmm. I don't really like horror movies, but it's mainly the sound, but I don't do anything. Sometimes I'll jump, like the jump scares in the theater, I'll do this.
Right.
Just like, the normal reaction, I think, but nothing crazy.
In terms of like, everybody has jump scares, right? Kind of, at least everybody. I would say almost everybody has jump scares. Yes. Yeah, it's like it's a natural reaction for your brain. It's like, oh shit, there's something happening. It's kind of like activating fight or flight, right? Just get scared immediately, and then you realize what's going on. Right. But it's just the magnitude is very different for different people. You know what? I can give this is a funny example. This is gonna sound stupid. I have the same thing with balloons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people can attest to this. That if there's like a big balloon being blown air into, for example, the skit at you didn't watch the skit at this Dreamleague, but there was a skit where they had the guy on stage and he was like in a balloon and he was like blowing it up to be bigger and bigger so he could be into it. Like the fear of that thing breaking and like the loud sound that it's gonna make. I really dislike that when there's balloons, right? When balloons are being blown up, you just want them to not pop, because again, it's that like jump scare of the sound. I really dislike that.
Wow,
too.
So you're the same thing. You have a fear of balloons now. I'm sure there's a word.
I don't have a fear of balloons. I can easily be around balloons, touch balloons, play ball with balloons. I don't care, but the sound of them puffing and the jump scare is really. But if you're playing with them,
the back of your head is like,
I don't know.
If this pops, I'm gonna shit my pants, basically. Right?
It's not that bad.
Okay. It's finishing up on Halflife Alyx. There's not going to be jumping in the game for the most part, which is nice for like the nausea people like myself. And apparently the game is done, so there won't be any in terms of unless there's something crazy that happens, there won't be any delays. Okay.
And you have the console to play this, so you will play it when it comes out.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it. I'm pretty disappointed in the Valve Index, or just VR in general. I guess it's not just the Index, but
maybe this game will change your mind. You're definitely going to try it, right?
Oh yeah, well, I get it for free, so why not?
Yeah.
People that have Valve Index get it for free. Okay. YouTube exclusivity, Syndra. So there's a huge announcement, which we don't need to, again, we're not from these scenes, but this is an esports podcast technically. Overwatch League, Call of Duty League, and Hearthstone esports will now exclusively be on YouTube instead of Twitch. Yep. This is pretty giant news.
Yes.
What are your initial thoughts on this?
I think this is super good. That's my initial thoughts.
Super good.
Because competition is what gives the end user the better product. And Twitch has, it hasn't had a monopoly, but it's pretty damn close for 5 years in esports. Like the streaming, it's the place. It still is the place, but now Mixer are starting to get their hands on it. YouTube are starting to invest more than we thought they maybe would. They're definitely doubling down here with getting these productions on there. So what does this mean? This, in the end, it means more competition, which means more money for talent involved, more money for organizers involved, more money for players involved, more money for well, was that everybody that's kind of in it, I guess, for the production, whatever it is, like everything. When there's more competition, it also makes people strive to make a better product. So it will make Twitch put in more effort and offer people better contracts to run their tournaments or their content on their stream, because they know that now there's other big guns that are out to get their content, right? And they need the views. It's not like you're not Twitch and this happens and you're like, man, whatever, we still have the other games. Like this is something. Okay, this is you need to respond to this or you lose your market majority.
Well, I mean, again, we can go back to when Twitch started to get really popular. It was between that and Own3D, and then pretty quickly Own3D just died. And
it went bankrupt.
Basically just Twitch. Like it has been essentially a monopoly, like you said. So this is obviously very good on a lot of fronts like that. YouTube, in terms of like just watchability, if that's even a word, like they have good routing. Like it's YouTube, right?
They have super good servers.
The only problem I have with it is the UI has always been kind of, not the UI of the actual screen itself when you're watching or the web player, but the UI of like getting into YouTube Live is just weird, because maybe it should be a separate product, like separate branding.
The primary criticism I'm hearing with YouTube right now is that if you don't know it's on, you won't find it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The game.
But then again, you can also make a lot of, I can complain a lot about the way YouTube does stuff now just for videos on themselves. So,
right.
I don't know.
I mean, one could hope that now that they're investing this much into bringing big productions on there, they must be doing an effort to make people find it, right? And make it more navigatable. Is that word?
Navigable.
Now it is.
Yep, sure.
Because there's, in theory, there should be a really big viewership on YouTube, right? If they have good servers, they have good routing. Most people use YouTube. There's probably very few people that use Twitch that aren't also on YouTube. So you should,
I've never heard of YouTube before.
The main thing I would want out of it is, I still think the thing that Twitch clearly has a leg up in is chat. And I know you don't care very much about it, but for a very big part of the community, chat is a big part of the game. And the other chat experiences just don't come close yet, it feels like. I think part of it is UI. I think part of it is maybe history, where they're just behind by default.
I don't know how you can win in the chat department, but if you don't have access to KEKW, I mean, it's not possible.
You could buy KEKW. YouTube,
the reason I like that emote, you know me, I'm not a big chat guy on Twitch. I'm not a Twitcher. I don't know what you call yourselves. Disgusting, whatever you are, Syndra. You're a degenerate essentially. But KEKW is fucking good. That's a good one. It's really good. I enjoy it.
Dude, I actually have that. That's like the one emote I don't have on my channel.
Mine is in lowercase only.
When you write
KEKW
in my stream, it writes debated, actually.
That's good.
There was somebody who uploaded on BTTV or Franker Faces, whatever it was, with KEKW, and then it's just a bigger debated face.
That's fine.
I have not changed that.
Well done, Syndra. I actually understand that joke. Okay, moving on. League of Legends. I laughed so hard when I read this. League of Legends professional players are not allowed to stream during Academy games. Academy games, to my understanding, are like the tier 2 tournament scene for League. They're not allowed to stream during those tournament games. Your thoughts?
Dude, I mean, I get what they're trying to do. It doesn't work like that. Right? Like,
to a degree it does. They might get 10% more viewership.
Yeah, I mean, it works a bit. And if that's what they want, then sure. But what you're basically doing is you're stifling the overall viewership of your game in favor of one piece of content.
Right.
So let's say, what's a big streamer in League? Doublelift, maybe. He was the one in this link, right? He's a big streamer, I would say. Let's say he pulls like 25, 30, 40K. I don't know what he does, but he pulls big numbers, surely. Now, he's not allowed to stream, and then the Academy stream gets 5K more viewers. Was that a win? Because you get more exposure for your Academy games? For the game, probably not. For him, absolutely not, obviously.
Yeah.
The
clip, by the way,
they've got to feel bitter about it. You know, like that's you're just Riot's bitch. You know, they're telling you what you can and can't do, even when you're not at work.
Let's
you are not playing right now. They're still stifling your growth.
That if they should understand. I'm not on Riot's side at all, but they should understand at this point what Riot does. This is just what they've always done, right? It's just different. What's the saying? Same shit, different day. It's essentially the same
feel like
thing.
this is a slightly different level, though, because it's one thing to tell the pros, you are a professional player playing in our league, so you are competing in our game, following our rules, and you have to do these and these things because of you in these games. I mean, that's one thing. That's like an exclusivity contract, right? I just feel like it's an extra step to, in addition, say, okay, well, you're off right now. You are not performing your League of Legends act as a pro player right now. But by the way, you still can't do something personal when you're off. It's like telling a sports player that during the off season they can't visit their family. You know, I mean, it's a weird fucking comparison, but you get what I'm getting at here, right?
No, I understand.
Like, why can't you, in your spare time, do what you want?
Right.
Like, I mean, basically they're extending the contract now to saying, outside of the fact that you can't stream other games, which, I mean, it's debatable if that's fair, but that's one thing. You can't, you're committed to this game and we want you to promote our game as a pro player. Fair enough. He would be promoting their game. He would be streaming League, which is good for them. It's a big stream on Twitch.
Right. We understand that,
right? So,
maybe this is an experiment of sorts. Who actually knows? I mean,
wait, could you hear me popping bubble wrap, by the way?
No.
Somebody in chat wrote pop pop, so I thought it was actually going through. I was like, okay,
it's the League of Legends professional scene, pop going away.
Oh yeah, it's going pop.
I would agree it's an escalation, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. Thus the laughter that ensued upon reading this for the first time. It's funny because you could criticize every one of these big companies because they do stuff that's just so stupid, just so dumb, including Valve at times. And it's like, well, there must be a reason. There must be something deeper than because the clip of what was his name, Double Lift. I don't know the names of anybody in the scene, but the clip of him finding out on stream that he's not allowed to stream it was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I feel bad for him because
I haven't seen the clip. I just saw
that. It's like, oh, apparently I'm not allowed to stream this, and he's obviously not happy about it. But what can you do? You're under contract with Riot, and they are your overlords. They own your nutsack.
I have a better comparison now, I think, than the shitty one I gave before. Okay. Imagine you're a pro football player, and the NFL is on, and you're not playing. You didn't make the Super Bowl. But now that the Super Bowl is on, you are not allowed to stream or like to make a video from the event, right? Be like, hey, look, like if you're there watching the Super Bowl or whatever, you're not allowed to do it because it takes viewership away from the Super Bowl.
I have a better analogy for you that's real. So I don't know what the contracts are like in the NFL, so I'm just going to use NBA as usual. There are stipulations in contracts where you're not allowed to play other sports, but it's because of risk of injury.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, that's kind of fair, I think.
I think it's fair, but it's along the same level if you kind of think about it, to a degree at least, not the injury portion, obviously. Unless you're really worried about that carpal tunnel. Boy, oh boy. It's sweeping the nation.
I mean, it's also, sometimes it's a bit dangerous to draw direct comparisons. There's so much overlap between esports and sports, but one of the big things that is different is the physical aspect, right? That's the biggest difference between the two. The mental aspect, the competitiveness, the preparation, all of the hard work is very similar, but the physical part is something else. Like if I was playing pro sports, I think I would completely understand why my contract would want me to not risk injury by going skiing on my holiday if I'm a pro footballer. In case
you're also getting paid shit tons of money, which makes it feel a little bit better as well.
But so the thing I just said, is that actually a thing? Do you know? Like, or maybe it was a bad example to say the Super Bowl because that's the grand one, right? But for example, if you were a high tier pro footballer and what's like the second division below the NFL called?
College.
Is that just college football?
NCAA. Yeah.
Imagine during college football that any of the NFL players was not allowed to, post on social media or something, or make a video on social media because it could take views away from college football or whatever. Like, there's no way that's a thing.
I understand where you're going with this, but I'm not going to go off on a tangent. But NCAA is beyond fucked up. Players are exploited on a ridiculous level, and they get paid $0, and they're not allowed to take sponsorship money. It's like a big thing in the U.S. That's for another time. So if you think about it, this actually might be more fucked up than what Riot is doing. Actually,
never mind. I don't know enough about it, Shannon. I don't know enough about these sports.
I never really thought about that. But
it makes it's absurd all the same. Like, even if it's normal there, it's just absurd there too. Then, like, I still stand by that. That's
I totally agree. Okay, moving on to the next fuck up in esports. Apparently, Overwatch in the next season, a month into the season, they will start essentially banning heroes. I think they got this idea from Underlords, actually. The jail that apparently doesn't exist anymore in Underlords. It's going to be based off of what heroes have been picked, how often they're picked, and they will be banned for X amount of time, and it'll just dynamically work that in. Everybody, basically, the reaction to this is very negative, and the most common comment is, "Oh, can't balance the game, so this is what you put in instead." Your thoughts on this announcement for Overwatch?
In a way, Dota has done this to a minor level, right? Like, when a new hero is added, it's not in captain's mode, but it's the other way around, right? Because that's where you put in a new design, you're not sure how competitively fair it is, so you test it out, and then when you feel like it's there, you add it. Whereas they just shoveled in all of their characters, everything was available, something is apparently overpowered, and then instead of balancing them, they just take out the best characters. Is that what this is? Like, I don't know Overwatch. I've never played it, so I don't know how much it matters what character you're playing.
I don't know. Again, I don't know how the classes work exactly, but it's not gonna be based purely on pick rate. It's gonna be X amount from this type of class, X amount from this type of class. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. I could never answer that question. It's Blizzard. That's why.
Okay, think about what other options you had. Number one, you could balance your fucking game, okay? If a class is deemed too good, you have some knobs you can turn, right?
They don't have Icefrog.
If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to rebalance your heroes, let the players ban at least, right? Like, why not let the players decide what's broken? Why should it be the company? Like, I mean, sure, even if you can have competent people hired to do this and to balance this, like whoever does the banning of heroes based on whatever metrics they do it on. But this is inherently pretty unfair, right? Because some of the heroes that will be banned might be rated way higher from one team than another, and it's just banned by default. Like, they don't even get to have a say in it. You can't be strategic and go into a match and be like, man, this guy is whatever the fucking... Is the character called Reinhardt, I think? I remember that because it sounds like a fucking character from a medieval game.
Reinhardt,
like, this guy's Reinhardt. I don't even know if the class is good. Whatever. Let's say this guy's Reinhardt's really good. So we're going to ban that because that is going to affect their competitive performance. That's like strategy. That's interesting, right?
Like, it's Dota.
I don't fucking like. Why are they just default banned? What kind of thing is this?
I don't. Like, it's the same reason they come out with Overwatch 2 when it's an expansion, really. You know? I mean, again, the only thing we can say is it's Blizzard. That's why.
Right.
Like, we've gotten to a point here. Like, I feel like us oldies, if you want to call us that, the reason that we keep bringing up and we're just shocked by Blizzard and their repeated mistakes over and over is because we remember when they were good.
Greatness.
We experienced actual great games. Diablo 2, StarCraft into Brood War, Warcraft 3. Fucking incredible games.
Original World of Warcraft. What a fucking god tier game that was.
And then
for the
Activision,
time especially.
Activision bought them. They let Icefrog walk for whatever reason. They never were interested in Dota. And they have gone. I mean, maybe they made more money now. Which might be a blessing
at this point. It might be a blessing that
they might have ruined
him with what happened.
Very true.
Maybe Icefrog could have talked them out of being bought.
Yes, that sounds very likely.
Listen here, guys. Don't sell out your company for $50 billion. We're making Dota here, okay?
I mean, again, maybe they, in the grand scheme of things, they probably made more money as a result of everything they've done, but they look like shit. Their games are not, like, compared to their classics, they're shit. I think we can agree on that at least.
What is likely happening, they might have made more money short term, but if they don't repair the ship down the stretch, this will have cost them.
Right. And not to add insult to injury, Syndra, but we're going to talk about one more thing, and guess what? It's Blizzard related. Everyone was very excited for Warcraft 3 Reforged. Essentially, it's like a reskin of Warcraft 3, some new animations, a lot of new models, like a lot of the graphics are redone, some different UI and whatnot. And the reaction has been so fucking bad. I'm going to give a short list of the things that I found very quickly in my Google search. Things that really didn't
let me
like.
just say this before. No, let me preface this, okay, guys? So we have this outline, right? So we remember to talk about everything. And usually when you're talking about something, you have like pros and cons listed, right? So Shannon has Warcraft 3 Reforged, and then the bullet point after is the bad, and there is 7 bullet points, and there's nothing good.
Nothing good about it.
That is literally it.
It's fine. Not biased at all.
Yes.
So here are the bad things. I just said what the pros were.
Here
New
are
graphics.
the bad things. The game.
Looks pretty. Okay, so the bad things, it's missing a lot of cutscenes that were used in the marketing campaign. I didn't know exactly what this meant, but I looked at a trailer, and there's a scene where like Abathur, I believe, I can't remember what their names are, talking to somebody else, and it's like up close and personal. It looks kind of cool, like new models and whatnot. And then in the actual game, it's literally a top-down view. Their backs are to the camera, like you can't see shit. I'm like, what the hell? So people are really upset about that. Apparently, the game is very buggy, crashes a lot. The UI, apparently, to a lot of people, is worse than the original in some ways, which I don't know how that's possible. The UI that's the one thing I would look back and that UI was fucking garbage back in the day. A lot of login.
Do you think that UI was bad?
I mean, years later, yes.
Wait,
but
which parts of it were bad? Like, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Everything's super bulky. I mean, maybe it's just one of those things looking back.
So
now
do you
it
mean
looks bad
in
for
game
me.
Or in the menu?
What I'm talking about is in game, but it could be in the menu as well. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, a lot of login connectivity issues. Basic features from Warcraft 3 are not there anymore, apparently, which includes, but not limited to, automated tournaments, clans, profiles, and competitive ladder. And also, people are reporting that they're being banned from Blizzard forums for complaining or asking for refunds. And
that could have something to do with their wording, not asking for a refund,
possibly.
But being like,
I just figured,
shit company, give me monies back.
It does cost $30 for the base amount and $40 for the next step up. It has, on Metacritic from users, not that this means anything, out of 10 points, they have 0.7 right now as of this recording.
Okay.
Impressive. Now, the coup de grace.
I did not pre-order this game.
Me neither. The coup de grace, as it's actually pronounced, Syndra, which, again, this is the last point of negativity.
Coup de grace.
Coup de grace. The thing that people are most upset about is that there's wording. Let me just read actually what it says here. So, in what is this thing called? The EULA, right?
EULA?
The legal language and whatnot.
I think it just call it the EULA, right?
The EULA. It says, quote unquote, custom games are and shall remain the sole and exclusive property of Blizzard. Without limiting the foregoing, you hereby assign to Blizzard all of your rights, title, and interest in and to all custom games, including but not limited to any copyrights in the content of any custom games. It sounds like they want to go back in time and prevent Dota 2 from being a thing that Valve can pick up.
Is that guys,
a fair assessment, Syndra?
League players, do you feel like you're Riot's bitch? Here's what it's like when you're someone's bitch, okay? Let's one-up you.
Hold my beer,
This
please.
is it. Here you go. Oh, you guys have a great idea to make a great game? We made this. I made this. Blizzard's just like, I made this. To everything. Everything you made, I made this.
God. How do they not
Dude,
learn?
what you basically do with this is you kill custom games. Like, why would anyone want to make a game that they don't even own anything to it? Not even the idea.
I disagree. I think that people will still do it. Maybe not to the extent of what they may have done without this wording. I think most people will still make custom games, but they will get fucked, and they will get fucked hard by Blizzard if it's successful.
Okay, the thing you just want to not happen is that people make an amazing game and they didn't know that these were the terms. Like, that would be the biggest shame. If somebody puts in shitloads of hours to make the best game they can in the hope that it gets them some financial return, and then Blizzard's just like, no, didn't you read the fine print? Like, that's my biggest concern. I mean, it's one thing you make a strict policy like this, and then we can agree or disagree, like, about how terrible this is for the game and in general as a move. I'm sure they have their reasons for it business-wise, But the big losers here are the ones that put in the effort and don't know the terms. And there will be some of them.
You're probably
inevitably,
right.
There will be some people.
I feel like this news is so big and negative right now that most people should know about it.
Most people will at least. Yeah, sure. Let's try to put on Blizzard's hat right now. Like, why are you doing this? Is it strictly because you're worried that somebody uses your engine to create an amazing game and then they profit off it and you kind of help them but got nothing in return? Or is it to prevent having to have people sift through tons and tons of copyright claims? But you still have to do that, right? If people put stuff into your game,
you know what,
and it's copyrighted material, you're the one with the problem, right? Because you own it now. So you need to do all the lawsuits.
This is the episode of analogies. I'm going to give you an analogy.
All right.
Have you seen Harry Potter or read Harry Potter? I've done both. Harry Potter 1, Professor Quirrell is Blizzard. Voldemort's fucking head attached to the back of his head is Activision. That is how I look at this relationship right now. I don't know if it's realistic. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if this is just me being me. But Activision, ever since Voldemort has been attached to Blizzard, they have gone down the fucking toilet. This company is complete fucking garbage right now. Everything they do is wrong. Every single step of the way is horribly, horribly wrong. Poor Professor Quirrell, he just wants to get out. He just wants to kill himself at this rate. Just wants to touch Harry Potter so he can explode.
Well, that is...
But Voldemort has other plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sad days.
Might need to wrap on the turban again.
Yes.
But that won't really help. It doesn't make a difference. It just makes it less transparent to other people.
Exactly. The turban doesn't exist in this reality because we know that Activision is Voldemort in this scenario, right? At least now we do. It's been uncovered. Okay.
Activision, by the way, we're still looking for sponsors for our podcast. If you want to promote your titles, we're very open to
this
sponsorships.
Rate, we're going to talk shit about every company. I mean, not that Blizzard would ever... that would be an amazing sponsorship. Please. I'll stop talking shit about Blizzard. If they pay us a lot of money, it's going to have to be like 10 times more than we are asking for. But it's possible.
If they pay us a lot of money.
Just throwing it's got to be a lot, though. Let's be real. Do you have any more thoughts about Warcraft 3 Reforged, Cinderman?
I'll be honest, I have not seen any footage from it.
Great.
I've just heard about the shitstorm, and it has really discouraged me from picking up the game.
Oh. Have you seen screenshots at least?
I saw.
It doesn't interest you on any level.
I think I saw the screenshot of was it Arthas, the undead Arthas looked weird. I don't know. There's a female demon hunter, I think, as well, or something going on.
How dare they?
I'm not completely sure. None of those models looked that interesting, to be honest.
But you're hard to please.
But
techies as an elephant, that is next level. Right, that's what you're into now.
I mean, it looks better. Let's be honest.
It does.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing I'm mainly interested in is not that this game fucked up. I just want to see Blizzard make a good PR move. Like, do the right thing now, right? Like, what? That's what's interesting to me here. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna change your EULA? Are you going to update the game? Are you going to apologize for it being released in a fucking unfinished state? This is something Blizzard never would do in the past.
Right.
That's one of the things that Blizzard and Valve did right 10 years ago, was that they would announce a release date and then they would be like, the game is not ready, guys. It will come out later because we want it to be perfect. And people were like, oh man, I was looking forward to this. This sucks. But then when the game comes out, they're like, holy shit, this was worth the wait. This game is amazing. You can't promise cutscenes and then they're not there. Like, you're one of the biggest game companies in the world. How can you do this? Like, did nobody realize it, or did they think it would just fly under the radar? Like, it's false advertising. It's like borderline fraud, right? Like, you're misleading people into buying your game. So that's why when there's something being shown in an ad about a game, they have to put not actual game footage text on the screen, so people don't think this is what they get when they buy it.
Right.
Like,
so I actually have an answer to your... I just thought of this, and I think this actually makes so much sense now on some level. Obviously, the incompetence is beyond belief, and there's no excuse. Mm-hmm. But Activision Blizzard, and I had to double-check, they are a public trading company, so they do have to answer to stockholders, right? So this is just off the top of my head, but if you're promising something, then it pretty much has to come out in that time range, or else holders will not be happy. Valve, on the other hand, is a privately owned company, so they can do whatever the fuck they want, which is that, obviously benefit where you can come out with whatever Valve time, etc. So that probably has something to do with it. But again, this is on a new level of incompetence that we have never seen from any game company at this level.
But
so
the thing is,
Blizzard.
this is not every game company. That's the thing. It's like it's a big company doing it, but there are companies that kind of uphold this old tradition almost at this point. It feels like of. I give you a great example. There's a game I'm really looking forward to this year, which was even supposed to come out last year. It's what's the full name of it? Fuck. Meat Boy Forever, I think it's called. Super Meat Boy Forever.
Oh, you love Meat Boy. Yeah, I've seen you play it.
I loved Super Meat Boy. The game was amazing. And they announced it would come out. I don't know what the original release date was, if it was like April last year or something. They were like, it'll come out later. And they postponed it again. They were like, the game is not finished. And I know I'm not every player, right? I'm not angry at them. I'm like, take your time, make this game awesome, because I want to enjoy this game. I want it to be as awesome as the first one was. And they're doing it. There's like a smaller indie studio, I think, but there's a lot of good to be said about not rushing games. Another game that I really look forward to that went the other direction was I'm a pretty big MMO fan. I've played a decent amount of MMOs in my life, and there's this game that came out, I want to say about a decade ago, called Age of Conan.
I've heard of that.
Based on Conan the Barbarian. And
no, not Conan O'Brien. Okay, just checking.
No. Yes, Age of Conan O'Brien. No, so Age of Conan came out back then, and there was some really cool things in that game, and there were some awesome elements. The game was just released half a year too early, and unfortunately, they had this huge surge of players in the start, and the game just almost died within 3 months. And that game could have, if they would have waited 6 months, taken that little bit of a hit, okay, we don't make the 6 months of profit. The long-term gains, if you have a freaking good game when you release it, has to be better, right? Are we the idiots here for thinking this is a good strategy? Like, is it better to just release and ride the hype and then your game just dies at the snap of a finger? Is that better than having like consistent player base over like years from making a good game? Like, maybe our cost benefit is off. I don't see it. Like,
something's off. That's for sure. But
I don't know.
I mean, did they ever come out with that mobile Diablo? Remember they announced that a few years ago and people...
Diablo Immortal or whatever?
Yeah, did it ever
I think it's still in development. I don't know.
I'm really looking forward to that one. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Okay.
Anything else? I've been unusually slightly bitter this episode. I'm not actually angry or in a bad mood today. This just
I haven't noticed.
It's just stupid. Like, stop being fucking dumb. Come on.
It's called you're allergic to common sense, right? That's essentially what Blizzard is in a nutshell right now. I don't know. I mean, at least like Riot, it feels like they're evil, but they're diabolical and they're smart at least about it, right?
Chaotic evil.
Chaotic? No, not chaotic. It's not chaotic, right? It's.
Wait, wait, hang on. I need to look at the whole chart.
Here we go. Whatever Blizzard is, Blizzard is whatever. I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called. Blizzard is
here
something.
It is. They're neutral evil. Riot.
Neutral evil?
Or are they lawful evil?
I think they're I don't know. I was never into that meme when it was a thing, so you're going to have to tell me. I look at Blizzard as kind of okay, so Riot is like the evil villain, right? Very smart mastermind, has diabolical plans, is evil, but at least knows what they're doing. Blizzard is the literal village idiot. They are just running around in circles. They're like the chicken with their head cut off, right? They're just running around. They don't know what the fuck's going on. Whatever you want to call it, they're a goddamn chicken. So God be with them. Good luck, Blizzard, really.
Okay, Shannon, which one is it? Is Blizzard, Quill, and Voldemort, or is it a chicken? I have to choose now.
They're all of the above. They're all encompassed, man. Let's be real.
Now I'm just picturing Voldemort's head at the back of a chicken.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit better.
And he's trying to tame it.
Okay. That brings this about what I expected, about 2 hours, close to it. episode of We Say Things. We did very good. So this is going to be, like I said,
kind of a double episode. So
yeah, a double episode of sorts.
Cut it in half, guys.
Yeah,
if you made it this far, go back and don't. Yeah, okay. We should have said that earlier. Oh well.
It's all good. Syndra, have you watched In Bruges?
No. No.
Thank you for being a great friend and making this bit funnier and funnier each time we do it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
I have, however, Joker, I have to say, I've also not watched. Okay, but
you got me there. I'm not going to lie. You got me there. Thank you, Syndra. You will be required to watch the whatever wins Best Picture this year, by the way.
Is that the punishment?
For you, it's a
you
punishment.
You have to
being
watch
entertained.
a movie if you lose the bet.
I mean, at this rate, it sounds like something you just don't like to do. You don't like having fun.
Not my nemesis, the film.
That's why you like ranked Dota so much your entire life, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back the following Tuesday with We Say Things, episode 39. We may have a guest lined up for either next episode or the following one. I'm excited about it. I haven't told you about it yet.
We have a guest.
That's right. And it's not technically esports related. So
oh shit.
That's even more exciting.
It's Icefrog. Stay tuned.
He's more than esports. He's a lifestyle. Anyway, thanks guys. Until next time, my name, whatever it is, and Syndra signing out. Goodbye.
Sunks fan.
God bye. Be with us. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening.